my gosh, we are so excited to have Ashley Burr from the Burr Nest here on the podcast today. And you're actually going to be our first guest, which is super exciting.
Super exciting.
Yes. So before we get into it, I'd love to just hear more about you, how you got started, really what your business is about.
Sure. Well, my husband Samuel and I both run the Burr Nest, which is our very new art business that we've brought to North Carolina. So essentially, we focus on 6 art mediums: painting, pottery, printmaking, candle dipping, to be exact.
Oh, fun.
Oh, yes. Pioneer days. Embroidery and sewing. And so basically, we're both artists, painters by trade, but we've spent the last 5+ years working overseas, doing nonprofit work and humanitarian work. And we just had a vision shift of this is what we love, so let's do it. So now we're here.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Okay, so when you say you're artists by trade or painters by trade, I'm sorry. So what did y'all do before the business?
Yeah, so we painting, art was not at all part of our work overseas. That was, we both have loved art since we could hold a crayon. So before we went overseas to work, both of us were doing, it was before we met, but we both were doing commissions, and we're just kind of self-employed artists, and then did some graphic work on the side. But that was basically it. And then it kind of disappeared as we transitioned overseas.
Gotcha.
So,
That's really cool. Okay, so I have to know, how did you find Ashe County?
Very good question. So we actually weren't planning on moving back to America. When COVID hit, we were in Europe. We were living in Belgium at the time, and border closures, all the chaos of 2020 just had us reevaluating some things. And we're like, okay, well, we can't do anything at all. We can't do our work. We can't engage with others. So we just started really thinking through our decisions and started feeling like, all right, I think it's time to go back to the States. That's where we're from. But we both have family in Texas. I grew up in Dallas. My husband grew up in California. We were like, California's too expensive. Texas is too hot.
Yes. Yes to both of us.
Yes, yes. And we had just been having so much fun living in developing nations and other cultures that were so much slower. And the one thing we dreaded was moving back to a huge mega city. So we were like, okay, let's go west and east. We took 2 road trips to the West Coast and to the East Coast and just explored. And we were like, we want art. We want a value for art in the community. We want a sense of community, and natural beauty, of course, which Ashe County has tons of. And we really wanted, what am I trying to say?
It's all right.
Slower pace of life, natural beauty, value for art. That's basically it. But we had connections in Boone, and so we were exploring a little bit, and we were like, Boone is still too big.
Yes.
So we kept driving around, and people mentioned West Jefferson, multiple people, and they were like, you guys would love it. It's got everything you want, but smaller in a smaller package. So we came, and we fell in love with it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's so interesting to me how people find Ashe County because we're secluded.
Yeah.
We're not, and nobody has ever heard of Ashe County, usually, unless you get really close, right?
Definitely.
Like you say, in Boone. People are like, you love West Jefferson. Yes, but, even just a few hours away, they're like, where?
Yes.
What? And my whole childhood or, growing up, I would be like, oh, I'm from near Boone. I'm near Boone, because nobody knows where it is.
Yeah.
And so it's always just interesting to, hear the story of how somebody came here.
Yeah.
So you got to Boone, and then Boone led you here, which I
Yes.
feel like is probably the case with a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're like, Boone is still a little much, and it is. Oh my gosh, I went to college at App, so
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, it's just a lot,
Yeah.
in a small space.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So it's like a big city in a really small area, which is interesting, with no shopping, none.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? If I was going to live here,
I know.
I would want some better shopping.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Okay. So I would love to hear, what were you doing overseas? What was that nonprofit work? What were you guys doing?
Yeah, we did a mix. Refugee work was part of it. We did some training and coaching and equipping with different people groups in leadership and personal health, mental health, emotional health, things like that. It's kind of a long story, but our main focus at the end before we transitioned was we both were feeling this stirring of we love art, we're passionate about it. It's core to who we are, and we're not doing it. And so in Belgium, we had worked alongside another couple friend of ours, and we created a nonprofit called the Evergreen Artist. And our aim was to train and equip artists in all of the areas that, like, not just creativity but like banking and budgeting and like marketing and even like mental and emotional health, because that was a struggle for us in our own journey as artists. So our nonprofit work definitely, which we evaluated at the end during the transition here, it still wasn't about creating our own art. It was just about helping other artists, which is great. And there's a season for that. But I think, we're now in a place where we're like, what are we passionate about and why aren't we doing it?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. So like, I think I want to like hit on that again, just kind of like drive it home, is that you figured out that you were not passionate about this other thing that you're passionate about actually creating. And I love that. Like, I love that. And I think so many times people are like, oh, well, I can't make a living doing that, or I can't do that, right?
Yes.
Which is understandable, because it's not like society is out here like, you could totally make a living being an artist, you know? I wanted to be a photographer my entire childhood.
Wow.
I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer, to be specific.
I love that.
Yeah. And I would tell people that. And of course, as a kid, they were like, oh, that's great. Yes.
Yeah, very cute.
Right. But as I got older, I would have teachers and my parents and like all these people would be like, no, like, you need to do something more practical.
Right.
When I know people now, especially in my industry now, who do the weirdest things and are multimillionaires, you know?
Right.
So it's like, society is just not set up for us to pursue our dreams and like go after that thing that's like the non-traditional path. And so I love that you guys have found that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So with your struggle, I know part of your struggle is really like getting people to you, but then also getting them from social media over to the website and over to order.
Yes.
So I have a quick question, just a qualifying question.
Yes.
Do you just want to focus locally, or you're really wanting to build a brand outside of local?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would definitely say both.
Okay.
I think we really do. There is this very like deep love already 3 months in for Ashe County and wanting to just share that with the community, but also just having friends and, people all over the globe. We're definitely like, we'd love to have a bigger circle, but also, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
I feel you, because that's how, like, I built my entire brand online. I completely ignored Ashe County, and I've lived here my whole life, so,
wow.
But as I've gotten, like, further along, I'm like, I really love to help people in Ashe County, because, as you know, we don't have a ton of resources for a lot of things, and I mean, it's getting better. I feel like we're moving in that direction, but we just don't have it. And so that was one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast, because it's going to help anybody who has a business,
right? But
also I can bring in people like you who are here, and I can hopefully help them like expand, you know?
Love that.
So I get it. You want to like nurture the community you're in, while also you also need to pay your bills.
Yes.
Like I totally get that. Like that is a very, very valid thing. So I'm looking at your Instagram, and one of the things was like getting people from Instagram over to the website. And there's a couple of things I would say. One is your Instagram does a great job of showing off your art. I really think it does.
Okay.
But I think it could be a bit more like poppy. Like when they come to Instagram and they look at it, they are like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Because it is beautiful. But then like it's kind of like I don't know, it's not all working together. So Instagram is a beast of a whole different scenario. But basically on Instagram, the whole feed has to kind of support each other. Every business is going to be different, but since you're an artist and like that's what you're going to sell, I really think your whole Instagram, like as soon as they land there, they're like, I get the feel. I get it. I get the brand. I get that they like color or that they don't like color, right?
Got it.
Because I'm looking at you today and you have on like a super colorful top, right? And then when I look at your Instagram, I'm like, I don't know. Does she like color? Does she not? I can't decide. So that's one of the things is like, okay, let's make it like the brand needs to stand out. Think of great. Think of it like a big canvas, right? Like all of your feed is a big canvas and you're just cutting out pieces and posting them little by little, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
And you could even do that with your art, right? Like if it was like a painting or even, you know, some kind of embroidery or something like that, you could take a picture of it and make and post like small pieces of it to make the whole picture show up on your feed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think for you, a lot of it is going to be the aesthetic, is really like nailing down what that aesthetic is to where when people land, they're like, this is my style.
Okay.
And it's okay if it's not their style. They can either follow because they love you anyway, or they can go find somebody who it is.
Right,
you know?
right, yeah.
But that's the first thing I would say is like,
great.
you know, it just doesn't scream like this is the brand, you know?
Right.
I see multiple like brands. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Okay, good. And I think, so we're just gonna do like a deep dive of your Instagram profile.
Go for it.
Is that okay? So I love that you have the Burnest as your like username. But what's really interesting about Instagram is there's only 2 fields on the profile that are searchable. So like up here where you have the Burnest and then here where you have it, that's called the name field. So for anybody listening, you can put in your name on Instagram, and normal people would put their name, right? Well, that's actually not what you should do. So basically, that field is searchable. So since nobody's searching for the Burnest,
Right.
Like they don't know that's the name of the person they want to buy from yet. So what really that needs to be is, you know, art, painting, some kind of searchable term. So what would people be going onto Instagram and be like searching, right? That needs to be in your name field.
Okay.
So my microphone's disappearing. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But basically, like that field is searchable. So it's also character limited. So you don't have a ton of room.
Right.
There, but I would say something like, you could, if you want to stick local, so like West Jefferson artist or Ashe County artist. If you wanted to do that, if you want to go global, I would go more for like painting, embroidery, like what, you know, list out some of the things.
Okay.
Because that's what people are going to be searching for.
Okay.
You're going to have better luck going location specific though.
Okay.
So it might be that you start there and then you kind of broaden out.
Got it.
So maybe for a month you do West Jefferson artist or West Jefferson painter or something like that.
Okay.
Then you do Boone. And then you do. So you can kind of start to expand out.
Okay.
So that's searchable. And also, I love that you have that you're a husband and wife. I think that's great. That's perfect for your profile. I will say you kind of want to think about what will people feel when they get your art. And I see that you have old world simplicity on there, and I think that's perfect. Maybe focus a little more on that.
Okay.
Like bringing this to you, because you want to make it about them, not about you. Like, yes, it's your Instagram, but it's more about, like, what is that person going to feel when they get there?
Right. Okay.
You know?
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. And then you can also, if you have any type of, like, accolade, award, recognition, use that space to, like, tout that a little. You know? Like, oh, I just, you know, randomly won this reward or award. Yeah. So, I mean, that's something, like, I would put, you know, top 100 podcaster or... if you were an author or something, you'd want to put it there.
Okay.
So if there's anything you can put there, that would be great. You could even put, you know, overseas, like back to U.S. or like something that's going to kind of qualify. Okay. Like, oh, that's an interesting story. I want to know more. Got it. You know? Okay. The other thing is your highlight bubbles down here. So everybody knows who's listening, highlight bubbles. Those you really want to use. You really want to utilize those. That's where people are going to go. Like, that's where people are going to go to when they're wanting to know about you. Okay. So when they find you, they're not looking through your posts. They found you from a post. Okay. But that's not where they're going to go. Okay. They want to know more about you. So they're going to go to stories and highlight bubbles.
Interesting.
Yes.
See, we've been not in America for a few years, and it's like, okay, how does this work? Like, you know, we're not huge on social media, but now it's like, oh, I don't even think Instagram had those bubbles when we moved overseas. Not. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just interesting.
Those are fairly new, for sure. But yeah, you want to use them. And what I always recommend is fill them up. So I think you can fit like 5 or 6 across the screen. And I would do like our story. So get on Instagram stories and tell about your story. Tell how you, like you just did, right? Like, this is how we landed at doing what we're doing. And then save that in a highlight bubble. You could also save like any kind of testimonials. So if you have any like references or anything like that, you could save those. So if people send you notes or like, thank you so much for this or whatever, you can screenshot those, put them on stories, save them in a highlight bubble. Because that's building credibility, right? So if somebody finds you and they're like, oh, this is cool. This was a cool, piece of art that I picked up or that I saw on Instagram. Let's see more about them. That's where they're going to go. Okay. So you've got to think about that. Yeah. And sold, I like that you have that there's like what you have sold before because it lets people know that they could get those, like something similar. But I would probably name it something different.
Okay.
I don't, maybe like past work or something like that. And then you could put, like, if there's a process for someone to go through and, like, commission a piece from you, I would talk about the process on stories and put that in a bubble.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So just kind of make it like they shouldn't have questions once they watch all this.
That's a good statement to remember.
Yes. Like, they should just see them all and be like, okay. I need this, you know? The other thing is with your post is your hashtags. So there's, like... Hold on. I pulled up one that has one hashtag. I know there was one a minute ago. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can actually do up to 30 hashtags.
Okay.
So 30 hashtags is what Instagram will let you do. You should use them all because it's basically 30 opportunities to get somebody to see your post.
Okay.
So basically I would work on your hashtags just a bit and you can create a bank of hashtags. Like I have them on my notes app on my phone.
What?
Yeah. And just like copy and paste them over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually, to go even further, to nerd out even a little bit better, I actually create keyboard shortcuts on my iPhone.
Okay.
So when I type the phrase holla, I don't know why that was like what I picked one day, but I also don't type that phrase on a regular basis, so it's not accidentally doing it, you know? So when I type that, all my hashtags dump in.
Okay.
So, yeah, you can totally do them like one time and be done, you know? You might want to reevaluate them and see, you know, is this still relevant or whatever occasionally, but for the most part, you can do that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so great.
And so I would use all 30.
Okay.
And for you, knowing you want to like be local, but also kind of get outside, I would kind of split your hashtags. I would make about half of them location specific if you can.
Okay.
There's not a lot of hashtags around here. Just fair warning.
Yeah.
So I run one of the local like Ashe County Instagram accounts. And there's just like not a lot of, you know, hashtags. But find what you can. Find things in Boone, that kind of thing. I know there's a couple like big hashtags in Asheville, so like that might be a good one to do. But then I would split the other half of hashtags and have them be national. Okay. So something, and something you want to remember about hashtags, they're not descriptive. They're hashtags that your ideal client are looking at.
Okay.
So a lot of people would want to then be like painting, hashtag painting, or hashtag, first of all, that's going to be way too big. You're going to get eaten alive, you know, by like people with these massive accounts. But they want to think of like hashtag orange and green because like the painting is orange and green.
Got it.
You don't want to do that. Like it needs to be like hashtag Ashe County NC, hashtag art lovers NC. I have no clue if that's an actual one. It was just, you know, in my brain. Yeah. So something like that, like any kind of like broad stroke hashtag is kind of what you want to go to. And to be totally honest, the thing that's growing Instagram more than anything right now is Reels.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
They're kind of like TikToks. So they're growing massively. So like I would be okay. Like if you were like my client, I would be like post Reels all the time, never post anything else.
Oh my gosh.
Like that would be the strategy.
Okay.
I posted a Reel every single day for a month and got thousands and thousands of new followers. Yes, I lost followers, but I got a ton of new followers. And my engagement was up. Like everything went up. Wow. You know? Okay. So you definitely want to focus on Reels if you can. For you guys, you can do like behind the scenes. You can do, you know, showing like previous art that you've done. You can, I mean, really anything, right?
Yeah.
But use the same hashtags so those Reels get seen by the same people and you'll be good to go. Wow. Now, as far as getting them from there, though, to your website, that comes from you on stories. Okay. That's where that comes from. Okay. Nobody, like I say, they're not going to just automatically come to Instagram and then be like, oh, I want to buy from them. Like that process is, it's almost like asking somebody to marry you before you've had a first date, right? So it's like, oh, that's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
So you really want to bring them in and nurture them on stories.
Interesting.
I see that you have active stories today. Do you story regularly?
No.
Okay. So you really want to make sure you do.
Okay.
At least every day. Like, I always say that bubble should never go empty.
Okay.
So the bubble that tells you have active stories, it should never go empty. And if it does, you want to come back with something really interactive, like a poll or a question box or something. But those stories, that's where they're going to get to see the person behind the art, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I feel like with your industry, it's almost more important.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like for instance, I saw a girl recently. I found her Instagram randomly. God knows how. I think it was with a reel, to be honest. And she is a nonverbal little, I think she's 17 with Down syndrome. And her mom runs her account. She was adopted out of foster care.
Sweet.
Yes. Amazing art.
Wow.
Like she does like large canvases and they just let her go to town and she does an amazing job.
So sweet.
But like, would that art have looked as amazing to me if it wasn't for the story behind it, right? And the people behind it.
Right.
So you have to think about that.
Okay.
Like they're buying art, yes, but that doesn't matter. They're buying from you. And so you've got to be active on the stories and showing your personality, like getting on stories and like talking through something or showing your husband's personality.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things are what is really going to make somebody go, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to buy from them.
Yeah.
You know? So it feels like a long game, and it is a long game. But it feels like, no, everybody's finding my Instagram, but nobody's coming and ordering. And that's probably true because they just haven't had time yet. It's a like a process, you know?
Okay.
It's like a dating experience, you know? They've got to be like, okay, I really like this person.
Yeah.
Yes, I will buy from them,
Yeah.
you know? So it's really a matter of getting the right eyeballs on Instagram. And I would focus on Instagram. I mean, you may have a Facebook.
No, we don't.
I was going to say, just don't. Like, it's not really useful for you. You're a visual brand, so Instagram is kind of where it's at. And if you'll focus on reels and hashtags and, like, all of the stuff we talked about, and then focus on being present on stories, I know you'll start to see people like, oh, I would love to have this from you. I would love to have this from you. And you'll notice that's what they'll say. Not, I like that painting. It's, I want it from you. Like, you're the reason I want that, you know? I think it's just like a matter of practice too, which is so hard because it's hard to see yourself on camera, first of all. It's hard to like listen to yourself talk. It's hard to like, why am I saying this? Who cares? You know, that's not really the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is that everybody cares who has come there.
The most commented on posts are the ones where we get personal and we actually don't talk about our art at all, but we talk about something else in life, each other or something like that.
Yes, and you can totally take that over to stories. And in addition to that, you can also, you know, have pillars on your post. So I always say, like, have 5 or 6 topics. Okay. So, like, maybe one post is your art, and then another topic is your marriage. Another topic is, like, a fun hobby y'all have. Another topic is this.
That's like, really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because the thing is, we also don't want it, while we want it to be aesthetic, we don't want to get to the feed and it be a complete sales page, you know?
Right.
So, putting things out there, like about your marriage, about your journey, about your story, those are also going to attract the right people.
Okay.
And it may be that, like, you use different hashtags on those posts than you use on your art posts, and the people who come in don't even know you have art. But then once they learn to like you and trust you, then they're like, I need a piece of their art in my home. You know?
Yeah.
It's exactly how people, like, I don't know, was Louis Vuitton a real person? I have no clue.
I have no idea.
Sure, we're going to say yes. But it's people like that, right? Like I know Kate Spade was. So, but people who brand after themselves, like who brand clothing lines, it wasn't the clothing. It was the fact that they, like, people wanted to buy from them. And you've got to make that happen for you guys, you know? So it's like, how can you do that? And that's really what it is like connecting with your audience. I go to conferences and stuff and people will be like, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, that's the point, you know? And so if you can get people to feel really like they know you, that's really the key to marketing. I mean, we just unlocked it. We're done. Done.
That was great. That's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap. We're done. But I mean, that really is the key to marketing is like, you know, getting people to like feel like they know you, because then you're going to be the one they buy from. There's 10,000 other people who do what I do. There's 10,000 other people who do what you do, but they need to buy from you. It's really it. Like social media is not, it's complicated in some ways because it's like you got reels and hashtags and highlight bubbles and stories, and focus on, you know, getting to know them. And then what happens is, one, they'll either automatically say, okay, now I want their art, because you're showing that behind the scenes or whatever, or regularly, and I always like to say about 20% of the time.
Okay.
About 20% of the time, you can go on stories and talk about, you know, the process to commission a piece with you, or what you have already done, or something like that. You don't want to oversell. Do you have any other questions before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I feel like that was really, really helpful.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to tell the listeners where they can find you, find your art, find your Instagram, that would be great.
Sure. Well, you can find us. Our handle is The Burr Nest on Instagram. That's probably the best place to go, and you can get access to our website and everything else there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.